Good morning. My name is Lori Dannemiller. I'm the manager of Denver Parks and Recreation, and I want to thank you all for braving the elements today and joining us for this truly historic occasion as we officially celebrate the National Historic Landmark status that's been bestowed upon our city's wonderful Civic Center. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but had we been in a beautiful 70-degree day, we'd be sitting outside as originally planned, and we'd be examining the Greek amphitheater and all the beauty that's been displayed right now with the festive decorations and the accessories out there. But I think today we'll overlook that little inconvenience and be able to celebrate the real reason that we're here. Civic Center is the crown jewel of our urban park system. It was the vision of legendary Mayor Robert Speer, who first proposed the creation of Civic Center in the early 1900s. His ideas were born out of the City Beautiful movement, which he learned about when he attended the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Today, Civic Center is one of the most recognizable and popular locations in our great city. The park is known throughout the state as the centerpiece to some of Colorado's biggest and most important cultural and civic events. The strategic location of this great park between the state capitol and the city and county building makes it a historical and significant site for rallies, festivals, and yes, the occasional yet perpetual political protest. We are continually working with our partners at the Civic Center Conservancy and many state and city organizations that support Civic Center and activate the park to draw more visitors here each year. With events like Civic Center Eats, Independence Eve, fireworks, Taste of Colorado, the People's Fair, movies in the parks, Civic Center is emerging as an incredibly popular destination for Denver residents and visitors. I think this is exactly what Mayor Speer had envisioned more than 100 years ago. We have a beautiful historic space in the urban core that is thriving and has continued to stand the test of time. This is indeed the highest honor we could bestow upon this great space in our city, and it's an incredible honor for our department to play a role in this significant event in our city's, regions, and state's history. And even though today seems more like a Wednesday in January than a spring morning in April, I encourage everyone to experience the beauty of Civic Center Park. Step outside today and look at the crisp Broadway terrace, the snow-covered Great Lawn, and take in the serene beauty. And then come back when the weather finally makes up its mind for a wonderful afternoon or evening experience. I want to specifically recognize and thank a few individuals for all of their hard work and commitment to this park and making today a reality. Doug Woods, our Director of Park Operations, and all the parks crew that's here today to make the park beautiful every day. Scott Gilmore, our Deputy Manager of Parks, who's truly committed to making this park a safer and enjoyable space. Mark Bernstein, one of our park planners. You could not find a more passionate steward of this park's legacy. I also want to thank Spectrum General Contractors and the building restoration specialists who complete restoration work on the structures throughout the park. And then, of course, Lindy Eichbaum-Lent for her tenacious energy towards making this park thrive, and Annie Levinsky, who without your effort and coordination, this day would have never happened. So thank you again for coming. I look forward to your continued support for Denver's first National Historic Landmark. Annie and Lindy.
Thank you very much, Lori, and huge thanks to you and Scott Gilmore and Mark Bernstein and the entire Parks and Recreation team for being such incredible partners and stewards of the treasure that is Civic Center Park. Welcome. I'm Lindy Eichenbaum-Lent, my partner in crime, Annie Levinsky. Just 6 years ago, as many of you know, Civic Center was on a statewide list of endangered historic places. So to be here today is a tremendous accomplishment shared by many, many partners: the historic preservation community, the City and County of Denver, numerous Colorado state agencies, and the Civic Center stakeholder community. This designation creates an opportunity and an obligation to ensure that Civic Center lives up to its potential for generations to come. Civic Center's National Historic Landmark designation honors Mayor Robert Speer's early 1900s vision that humanity could be uplifted by beautiful urban spaces. It honors the succession of architects, designers, and artists whose individual contributions to Civic Center created a unified whole greater than the sum of its parts. and it honors the past, present, and future public and private investments in maintaining, activating, and elevating our community's cherished historic infrastructure. From this National Historic Landmark designation to the recent Better Denver bond improvements to growing cultural programs and partnerships, Civic Center truly is having a renaissance.
And designation of Civic Center as our city's very first National Historic Landmark marks the end of a nearly 7-year process. It was managed by our organization, Historic Denver, and from the very first grant application to fund the nomination through several drafts and on to today's ceremony, it's been a long journey. And it is fitting that this place, Civic Center, the park, as well as the surrounding properties, is the city's first site honored at this national level, as Denver is a city of parks and Civic Center is our crown jewel. We look forward to another century of active use and preservation here at the heart of our city. Today is also an opportunity to acknowledge the tremendous impact City Beautiful Vision has had on our entire city, and with that continues to drive planning and design decisions. And that's the reason that we're celebrating City Beautiful all week this week, starting with this morning's ceremony, a happy hour this evening to kick off Doors Open Denver, and then a weekend of Doors Open Denver on Saturday and Sunday, where the community can help explore and celebrate these great buildings and parks. And as Lindy mentioned, we would not be here today without the help of many partners. And I know we've already listed a few, but there were many people who helped in this 6- and 7-year journey. So we want to specifically thank, of course, the City and County of Denver, and specifically the Department of Parks and Recreation and Denver Arts and Venues, the State of Colorado and History Colorado and the Colorado State Historical Fund, which helped fund the research for the nomination, the National Park Service, which also committed resources and a great deal of support throughout this process, some of our donors, including Bridget Fisher, Tom and Lori Simmons of Front Range Research Associates, who prepared the research. And if anyone ever wants to read it, it's a tremendous document, many dozens and hundreds of pages exploring the complete history of the Civic Center complex. And then the boards and supporters of Historic Denver and the Civic Center Conservancy. And we were hoping that the board members of our two organizations could stand for a minute to be recognized if you're here. So Historic Denver and Conservancy.
I want to echo Annie's gratitude towards all of the donors and the sponsors and the partners of both of our organizations, without whom anything would be possible. Far too numerous to mention, but I do want to single out a couple of partners in Civic Centers, past, present, and future. Downtown Denver Partnership is an incredible partner. Visit Denver, the Betcher Foundation, and the Sidney and Tom Marsico Family Foundation. Thanks to you all for being partners in this effort to continue and strengthen Civic Center's legacy. I now have the task of acknowledging all of the elected officials that are here, which is a thankless task because you always miss somebody. So maybe we could ask all of the elected officials to please stand. Thank you. So we have City Auditor Dennis Gallagher, City Councilwoman Peggy Lehman, and of course City Councilwoman Jeannie Robb, in whose very district Civic Center lives, and we're grateful for all of their support and partnership. And you'll be hearing from the mayor very shortly. Oh, and now to our speaking program. We are pleased to welcome prestigious speakers from each of the entities officially involved in the Civic Center National Historic Landmark designation. And here today to tell us about the National Historic Landmark Program and the tremendous significance of this designation is John Wessels, Regional Director of the National Park Service, which manages the National Historic Landmark Program for the Department of the Interior.
Good morning. Thank you very much on behalf of my National Park Service colleagues. We're honored to be with you this morning to help confer and celebrate, as you've already heard, this highest honor that our country can bestow on an historic site. I've been a longtime Denver resident now, almost into my 3rd decade here, and I have many fond memories of City Center. It is quite literally the heart of our city. It's a place to meet a friend, to sit and read a book, to bring your kids and throw a Frisbee, And last fall, as I was running the Denver Rock and Roll Marathon, it was a sight for sore eyes and even sorer legs. Civic Center has been the anchor of countless gatherings and remarkable events since its inception more than 100 years ago. The National Historic Landmark Program, administered by the National Park Service, honors nationally significant historic places designated by the Secretary of Interior because they possess exceptional value or quality in illustrating or interpreting the heritage of the United States. Today, about 2,500 historic places bear this important national distinction, including the Empire State Building, the Brooklyn Bridge, Lowell Observatory, Alcatraz Island, the Los Alamos Science Laboratory, and the Palace of Governors in Santa Fe, and as of today, Civic Center in Denver, Colorado. It's our honor today to be here to celebrate the addition of Civic Center to this very exclusive list as Denver's first National Historic Landmark. We've heard about Mayor Robert Speer. You know, coincidentally, I have a kid in Denver Public Schools, and every year, you know, the 4th and 5th graders have to identify a landmark and write about it. And we've been out to Fairmount Cemetery more times than I can count, doing rubbings of the various luminaries that have passed through the city. And you can see around us what they helped create. So many generations of Coloradans, of Denver residents who have appreciated and enjoyed, and who will appreciate and enjoy this landmark for hopefully hundreds of years to come. The people of Denver can be justly proud of the fact that our study of Civic Center in preparation for the designation, the National Park Service historians found that the area encompassing Civic Center is remarkably intact after 100 years. Significant features regarding its historic design landscape, including all of the buildings, structures, and all but one of the objects that adorned it during this period of significance remain today. That finding reflects an excellent sense of stewardship on the part of our leaders and citizens. The magic of our Civic Center and the uniquely American story it tells is that it weaves together so many strands of our national fabric. As we look around the Civic Center at the graceful architecture, the broad sweep of the space, we are taking in not just an aesthetic ideal, but a philosophic view, a view that nature, beauty, and democracy go hand in hand. Our Civic Center here in Denver sprang from the same City Beautiful movement in the late 1800s that gave birth to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. It was a movement that believed that beauty could inspire us to be better citizens and better people. It sought to make cities more humane places to live and encourage each of us to be better citizens. And one of the most powerful proponents of this movement, Frederick Law Olmsted, saw public parks as bastions of the democratic ideals of community and equality. And remarkably, it was Olmsted who also created Central Park in New York City and then expanded his vision of city parks to include national parks as he championed the preservation of Yosemite Valley in California. A report he wrote on Yosemite was characterized as the first systematic justification for public protection of natural areas, emphasizing the duty of a democratic society to ensure that the body of people have access to natural beauty. So here today, we see that the impulse to provide a place in our city to inspire and renew us sprang from the same impulse that guided the development of our system of national parks. For me, both as a Denver City resident and as an employee of the National Park Service, this is a remarkable connection. This Civic Center is part of a great movement that helped define how we see ourselves as Americans and how we seek to treat one another with dignity and respect. It is the outcome of a great vision, and it shows how powerful and inspiring a great vision can be. Today, we rightfully celebrate and recognize the power of that vision by conferring on City Center the highest honor our country can give an historic site. My deepest congratulations to the City of Denver and to all of those who live and work here. A special thank you to my friend Mark Najarian, who is my son's Cub Scout pack leader, and for everyone across the city and county of Denver who worked so hard to make this historic designation a reality and today's event a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wessels, and thank you again to your staff for all their support over the last several years. Civic Center by design was intended to be the heart of Denver and the heart of the region's civic and cultural life. Its intention was to bring together government facilities, beautify the space between, and make it clear that these were assets and a tribute to the people. The Civic Center NHL designation includes several distinct properties, some owned by the state of Colorado and some by the city and county of Denver. Here to provide the state's perspective is State Historic Preservation Officer and History Colorado President, CEO Ed Nichols.
Thank you, Annie, Lindy, and congratulations to everyone included in the work that's been done on this. In Colorado, we have the fortune to have incredibly rich and fascinating history that we can celebrate. History that both honors the triumphs as well as the tragedies. But as we look at it, it celebrates our cultural diversity throughout. On the National Register alone, there are over 1,400 historic sites that embody our history. But only 2% of those are sites that designate National Historic Landmarks. Today we celebrate the first for the city of Denver and the 24th site in the state of Colorado designated as a National Historic Landmark. As Annie said earlier, Civic Center now joins a list of iconic Colorado places that are recognized to the nation. Places like Bent's Fort, Mesa Verde, Trujillo Homestead, the Granada Relocation Center, which we know as Amache, and the important archaeological sites such as Lindenmeyer and the Ludlow Tent Colony site, which will be celebrated this fall with an exhibit in the El Pueblo Museum. But this national designation for the Denver Civic Center had not even been undertaken until, as Annie mentioned, 6 to 7 years ago. In 2007, the Civic Center was listed as one of Colorado's endangered places. The people who care about the future of the Civic Center, however, did not sit on their laurels, and because of their work, we're now standing in one of Colorado's great historic preservation success stories, which as of today is officially one of our national success stories. This is all thanks to the partners who saw and continue to envision the great potential of this Civic Center, not only as a reflection of Denver's history, but as an important public gathering space, a place where the past, the present, and the future come together. Partners like the City and County of Denver, the State Department of Personnel and Administration, Parks, the Civic Center Conservancy, Historic Denver, and others, as well as the City Council of Denver and other partners who have worked diligently with the history of the Colorado success stories for many years brought this to be. And through the State Historical Fund, more than $50 million in preservation grants has been granted and invested to the many buildings and structures associated with this district. These include both the city and state buildings like the state capitol, who is currently, as we see today, looking out, undergoing a renovation on the dome. These important restorations are not to preserve just the buildings in stone alone, but to create spaces that meet our needs for the future and carry the wonderful legacy of Colorado's heritage to all of our people. For example, in 2008, the state capitol building became the first of its kind in the nation to earn LEED designation for energy efficiency and sustainability under the category of existing buildings. Here at McNichols, where we stand today, is yet another example of a building that is bringing new life to the Civic Center, where we at the State Historical Fund, together with other partners, have worked hard for this restoration. This beautiful Civic Center is the public and cultural heart of our city, intricately and deliberately woven into the fabric of the state. There are so many individuals to thank between the National Park Service, the Department of Interior, the city, the mayor, we thank you, sir. Looking at the council, Jeannie, Rob, and all of your council persons that are associated with you, we appreciate all the work that you've done. Larry Friedberg, the state architect, Steve Turner, the head of the State Historical Fund, and many, many others. And like Lindy, I'm not going to try and list them all because that tells you how many I will miss. But as we look at what we do today, these sites to be included, have this site included in the National Historic Landmark designation brings this site to national attention. As we mark the 120th anniversary of the City Beautiful movement, it is a great honor and achievement to be here with you today to mark Civic Center as Denver's first and Colorado's 24th National Historic Landmark. My congratulations to all involved, and thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you again for the support of the State Historical Fund for this effort, of the State Historical Fund support of Civic Center in general, and of History Colorado providing the gorgeous historic photos that greeted you on the way out. So I hope everyone gets a moment to explore those photographs. I also want to take a moment to thank Denver Arts and Venues, Kent Rice, Ginger White, Mark Nigerian, Tim Taylor, and the whole team, not only for bringing this incredible building, which is part of the National Historic Landmark designation, back to life and vibrant use, but for hosting us in this space today. So thank you, Denver Arts and Venues. The City of Denver is the other property owner, along with the state, in the Civic Center complex. And Civic Center is very much a legacy of the Denver's mayor's office, envisioned by Mayor Spear more than a century ago. Mayor Michael Hancock has been a tremendous champion of Civic Center. In fact, he twice attended meetings of the National Historic Landmark Advisory Committee, once in Washington and once here, to make sure our application got the attention that it deserved. Please join me in thanking Mayor Hancock for his past, present, and future support of Civic Center, and welcome him to the stage to talk about this honor.
Thank you all. Thank you, Lindy, and let me also thank Annie, Rob Levinsky, for your leadership as well. I want to welcome everyone to this historic day in this historic Civic Center, celebrating the first national historic landmark in the city and county of Denver, Colorado. Let me also join in the chorus of thanking everyone in the room. One, for being here. I think we've named just about everyone in the room. But my job is always to acknowledge those that I work with shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow every day in helping to manage this great city. And once again, I'll just say the names of our great city auditor, Dennis Gallagher. Thank you for being here, and to the council leaders, city council leaders who are here as well, Jeannie Robb and Peggy Lehman. This is a huge moment, and I want to start with a huge thank you to our Civic Center partners and stakeholders, without whom none of this would have been possible. Again, we have already said the names, but I think they're worth saying again. You heard from Lori Dannemiller of the City Parks and Recreation Department, Arts and Venues, Public Works, the Police Department, our state and federal partners, especially the State Historical Fund and Regional Branch of the National Parks. John, thank you for being here as well. To Ed, thank you as well for your leadership. You know, we also need to say the name of United States Secretary of Interior, Ken Salazar. Can you imagine the look on his face when that application hit, our recommendation hit his desk, and he noticed that it was Civic Center Park in Denver, Colorado, from his native state of Colorado, up for application. And as Secretary of Interior, he got to sign approval for designating the first historic landmark here in the city and county of Denver. Let's give it up for our Secretary of Interior, Ken Salazar. And of course, we certainly should share the name of Historic Denver, Annie Levinsky again, for your leadership and your organization, and to Lindy Eichenbaum-Lent, who has taken over really as the trustee of this very special place. Thank you to the Civic Center Conservancy and for your leadership as well. This is incredibly important, exciting recognition of Civic Center. Civic Center serves as the keystone, as has been stated, for the entire Denver Parks system. And this designation places the heart of our civic, business, and cultural community up there with the most significant and impactful landmarks in our nation's history. Not only is this a great honor for Civic Center and in our efforts to restore and memorialize City Beautiful vision, it shines a light on Denver and its growing importance of the entire country. You know, on 2 occasions, as Lindy pointed to, I had the privilege of testifying on behalf of this application. I crashed 2 meetings, and I learned that I'm pretty damn good at it. You know, all you got to do is go in, sit down, and all of a sudden you become a presence in the meeting. But the cool part was, and I'll never forget, is, of course, Washington, D.C., and they didn't expect anyone from Denver to walk in. And, you know, as the staff, they don't want you to walk anywhere and speak on anything without being prepped. And the whole comm team gets together and figure out what the speaking points are. But this was one, hey, Mayor, you're in D.C., the phone call came in, would you go and testify on Civic Center? And all I could do was speak from the heart. And really, when you talk about special places like Civic Center and the history and the vision that Mayor Spear had about this place and really what it means to Denver, Colorado, you don't want prepared remarks. You want the mayor, the members of city council, the auditor, whoever, Lindy Eichenbaum-Lent, you want Annie Levinsky speaking from the heart. Just so what we do, it's our heartbeat. So it was easy. And when I walked in, I thought, I hope I hit the right points with them. You know, you thought, how technical is this group? But it was the heart that they were looking for. And I was honored to stand on the shoulders of Mayor Spear and stand on every one of your shoulders and speak on behalf of this very special place. When you think about the importance of our Civic Center, no truer words would have been spoken to describe than those words that came from the man who had the vision himself, Mayor Spear, who said, I believe that it will do more than anything else to advertise Denver, attract the tourists, health, and home seekers, stimulate civic pride, and encourage prosperity to abide with us. This is the role that our Civic Center continues to play even today. Denver's Civic Center contains properties owned and managed by the City and County of Denver and the State of Colorado, as been mentioned. But now, it belongs not only to everyone in this region, but to the distinguished and storied history of these United States. It is a place where city and state government connect and converge with cultural, commercial, and community districts. It's a place of historic moments. We all remember the Super Bowl victory celebrations here, speeches by numerous presidential candidates, demonstrations of freedom and annual festivals. And it's a place where our community values are defined and erected as a monument to our aspirations. It should generate tremendous civic pride for the citizens of Denver to have our majestic city and county building, our newly renovated Magnico Civic Center building, and our beloved Civic Center Park join the state capitol and other state properties as part of the National Historic Landmark designation. Thanks to the Denver voters approving the Better Denver Bond Program in 2007, $9.5 million has been invested in the restoration of the park's historic features. $2 million has gone to improve the connectivity and pedestrian bike safety around the park. $4 million helped to restore the city and county building. And I am proud to tell you that just recently, I authorized another $5.5 million remaining from the bonds to fund additional improvements to the Magnico Civic Center building that we sit in, which was recently opened for public use. So let me once again thank everyone for being here today, congratulate everyone who's been involved, and tell you that we all look to the future and with great pride about regarding this designation, because we are truly leaving something very special to generations that we will never meet. Thank you all for being here. God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor Hancock, and thank you again for your support, and congratulations to you and to the citizens and voters of Denver for this exciting honor. We are grateful to Secretary of Interior Ken Salazar for signing this designation last fall, and we are sorry that he couldn't join us today. His duties in Washington prevented him, although he had hoped to be here. So I'm sure we'll welcome him back shortly, and he'll enjoy life in Colorado once again.
In the coming months, you will see bronze plaques installed throughout Civic Center at the various state and city sites included in the National Historic Landmark designation. Beautiful bronze plaques that we're very grateful to the National Park Service for providing. Today, we have the plaques here, very exciting. And we want to invite Mayor Hancock, Lori Dannemiller, Kent Rice to unveil the city plaques with us, and then Ed Nichols, John Wessels, Larry Friedberg, Scott Madsen to join us to help unveil the state plaques. We're going to do a countdown of sorts in just a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.